I have no idea. Hang on, I got a call.
Okay.
I got a caller on the line. Hang on.
Okay.
Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing there?
Hey, Todd, what's going on?
Yeah, just listening to this excellent dissertation on Agenda 21.
Hi, caller.
Hey, Dave, how you doing today?
Oh, I can't complain. No one listens, and it never does any good. Well, most of the time no one listens. I hope they're listening now.
Well, I think some people are listening today, but just wanted to congratulate the show on having a really good format here, and I'm enjoying listening.
Thank you.
Well, go out and we used to have a custom in Northeast Ohio up until 2006 when the enemy was celebrating United Nations Day. We used to go over to Richfield, which had what's called a mondialization agreement to make itself a world city, and we would gather on the lawn of the City Hall of Richfield and burn the UN flag. We haven't done that since 2006, and UN Day, or as we called it, Get Us Out of the UN Day, has passed for this year, but something people might want to think about for next October.
I remember seeing you there, Dave.
That would solve Agenda 21.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I remember seeing Dave there. There was a lot of good folks there, and one of the good things about having a group meeting like that is there's a lot of people that share information, and they have information to hand out.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that don't receive this type of information from the main media sources. So anytime you get a group of people out there with a ton of information and you can get it in the hands of a lot of different people, that's a great way to change the hearts and minds of people. And I don't think I've been to a single one that Dave hasn't been at. So,
well,
it's
running for office is another way of spreading information, even if it's only a 3-minute candidate forum or only passing out a 4-page campaign piece of literature. It wakens people up. And, of course, the enemy fears that because, as I said, and I gave the example of the so-called City Club Forum of Cleveland, the enemy really fears that. That's why they kept the Libertarian candidates off the debate.
You know what a big problem is this came up in a meeting that we had, that when a lot of the committeemen were beaten in their districts, these people were angry, they were furious, and they said, we need a title in order to do things. And I kind of saw their point, because people don't listen to you unless you have some kind of a title. If you're an elected representative, I don't like to say politician, because we need to change that wording. We need to change it from politician to representative.
Mm-hmm. Or a servant of the people.
Right, a servant rather than an official.
Mm-hmm. A servant of the people. Until we get every government official, from president on down to dog catcher at the local level, recognizing publicly that he is a servant to the people, we're not going to solve all the problems.
Right, and people have forgotten that. They look at these people as having authority over them. All of
that's
people.
The government
really,
schools again. Yeah.
Exactly, and they're never going to believe anything unless one of those quote unquote officials says it, or the people on TV, the media.
As chairman of the Libertarian Party of Cuyahoga County and member of the State Central Committee of the Libertarian Party of Ohio, I'm here to say
see, but they don't take the Libertarian Party seriously either.
I know they've been brainwashed. But Gary Johnson did get almost 1% of the vote, over 1 million votes. That's good. Oh, by the way, for everyone else who's listening, we will have Debbie Dean, who was the Ohio coordinator for the Gary Johnson campaign, speaking at the next meeting of the Libertarian Party of Cuyahoga County, which is at Denny's Restaurant on West 150th, just south of I-71. If you want to eat, come at 6 o'clock. This is Dutch. We're not one of the two establishment parties. There's no free lunch or supper. But if you just want to attend the meeting, which is open to the public, that's at 7 p.m. I hope to be there and discuss my campaign, and so if you have any questions, that's the time and place. Denny's Restaurant, 4331 West 150th Street. My website is mackoforliberty.com. And I'm going to give my email address, too, if anyone wants to have that, dmacko@roadrunner.com.
Awesome. All right. Here's the conversation I want to have with you, Dave.
Okay.
Gary Johnson only got 1%. Now, a lot of people don't understand politics and don't understand that that's pretty significant for the Libertarian Party. Now, some of them also might not know that Gary Johnson was actually a Republican in the primary, correct?
Yes. He, as governor of New Mexico,
he was in the early debates.
He was a Republican, and he got fed up with it and quit, as so many good people have done, and he joined the Libertarian Party, yes. They gave him the same treatment they had given Ron Paul. In fact, he stated that he was there was one debate where he was at, and they asked who would you support if you weren't running, and he said Ron Paul, of course. So that clinches it as far as I'm concerned.
Now, my whole issue is that if we just keep, I mean, how do I ask this? How do I have this conversation? Libertarian Party, 1% of the vote. People don't take them seriously, and only one of the two major parties ever wins. I mean, I've talked to people that have been in the Libertarian Party for 20 years or so. I mean, how do you convince people to vote that way? I mean,
well, because as long as the American people keep voting for the Democrats or the Republicans, America keeps losing. It's true, we have not won a presidential election or a congressional election, and very few state representative elections. But if you want to keep voting Democrat or Republican, you're going to see your country keep losing. You're losing your liberty. You're losing the value of your currency. You're losing everything.
I guess what I'm trying to ask it, and I'm not. Patrick says you don't get the major. I don't understand that, Patrick. How do you expect to win? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well,
most libertarians. Hang on a sec. Most libertarians were Republicans at one time.
Nope.
Would you consider that a true statement?
Yeah, I voted for Barry Goldwater in 1964, the first time I was old enough to vote. I'm glad they didn't let 18-year-olds vote then, or I would have voted for Nixon in 1960, and then I couldn't say my hands are clean.
So would it also be safe to say, though, that libertarians pretty much gave up on the Republican Party?
Yes, we have. Now, to those of you who are working within the Republican Party, as Ron Paul did, as his son Rand is doing, God bless you. You can do it and keep your souls and keep your stomachs from churning and becoming totally destroyed. God bless you. But I choose to work.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've chosen your path. But, I mean,
yes.
I believe we could change the Republican Party.
God bless you. Good luck. You can. I think actually it will be more beneficial to have someone on the outside showing the way things should be. I'm going to use a rather odd example. I'm going to use the example of Norman Thomas. He was the head of the Socialist Party, and he ran for the president 6 times. And somebody asked him why he had done that. And he finally said that he had never won, but the platform of the Socialist Party had been adopted by the Democrats and to a large extent by the Republicans too. Now, if the Libertarian Party never gets over 6% of the vote, but if libertarian principles are restored in our government, that's a victory there too.
Now, if we were to change the Republican Party, and people other than myself would run for office, and let's say we had a Congress that actually did something instead of bending over, would there be a need for the Libertarian Party still?
No, if the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, for that matter, returned to constitutional principles, if they adopted the Liberty Amendment and abolished the Fed and restored honest money, if they ended all the entangling alliances, got us out of the UN, restored the right to keep and bear arms, no, there wouldn't be any need for a Libertarian Party then. But there's
right. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, because people need a place to go.
Yeah.
And when they're not getting what they need from either one of the parties,
right,
then they have to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. As I said several times, if you want to reform the Republican Party, make it an American institution again, God bless you. But if you get fed up, remember you have another home. The same home that Gary Johnson went to, the same home that many fed up Republicans who just couldn't stomach it any longer went to. So we're there for you.
Well, I support
not only
everyone.
Not only you, but everyone listening.
I support everyone participating in the debates. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Todd.
Well, the thing is, what kind of checks and balances are there against the Republican Party if you don't have the Libertarian Party for them to flee to once their party has abandoned them? It's a natural check and balance, kind of like how you'll have a third party run if your party loses its principle. You're guaranteed to lose because you've lost what you stand for. And there has to be a place for people to go, or else they're going to keep on voting, and the principles will continue to move towards the direction of the communist socialist. So, me as a conservative, and I joined the Libertarian Party as a Democrat. And believe it or not, I went to a 4-year college, and I was still a Democrat, and I went to school for finance and accounting, and that didn't make any sense to me.
Me neither.
But you know what?
I'm
always interested because everybody I know has been a Democrat and turned Republican, and I just wonder how in the hell does that happen? Because I've been a Republican all my life.
Well, I was raised in a home with a father who's an atheist and who's an independent, and a mother who's a social worker, and she's a Democrat. And I never learned how to shoot a gun until I taught myself. I went to a good 4-year institution, and they taught me the benefits of social justice and everything that I needed to know. So I eventually had to teach myself economics, and thank you, David and Chris and a lot of other people in the Libertarian Party that taught me common sense, because common sense isn't common. It's not something that you just see every day. As a matter of fact, there's less and less of it every time I open my eyes. So it's something you have to seek out. If you're born a certain way, you're not that way until you die, unless you decide to be. I decided not to be a Democrat anymore. The reason I joined the Democratic Party is because I was anti-war. Turns out that Democrats are as much as a bunch of war hawks as anybody else. I was about to be a Marine out of high school, and I always supported the troops and everything like that, and I still support the troops. I just don't support their mission, because the mission is given to them by guys that are wearing white shoes in the White House. And I don't think they have any allegiance to our troops. I think they're a bunch of snobby rich kids that send the tough kids out to do all the hard work. And if you still think that those snobby rich kids are sending your boys off to fight a justified battle because they love America, I got a nice piece of swampland to sell you.
I support our troops. I want to bring them all home tomorrow morning.
Me too. And I don't think there's some rich guy in an office knows any better for them than maybe their generals that are trying to tell them to get the hell out of there are.
There's an excellent book called War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. I think I mentioned that last week, but if we have new listeners, I'll mention it again. Smedley Butler was the highest-ranking Marine of his time during the 1920s and 30s, just before he retired. And he compared himself to Al Capone. He said Capone ran 3 wards in Chicago, whereas Butler, ran 3 countries in Central America. And that he was basically a tool of the international banksters. And he suggested that, among other things, that only those who were likely to be conscripted into the war should vote in a referendum on any war, and that the only legitimate reasons to fight were to protect our homes and the Bill of Rights. And Afghanistan and Iraq certainly don't fall into that category.
Mm-hmm.
And here again, this involves getting out of the United Nations too. Let's get back to Agenda 20. Let's get back to Agenda 21 for a minute. The basic theme of Agenda 21, and everything else the enemy does, is to have total control over your life. What you eat, what you wear, what you drink, where you live.
Showers you take?
Pardon?
How many showers you take? How many times you flush the toilet?
How many showers you take? How hot the water is? How you flush your toilet? And the FedGov has been doing that now for over a decade. Well, and the drug war. When Colorado and Washington voted in the election, one of the few bright spots to re-legalize marijuana, there was some darned UN bureaucrat somewhere who told Obama, we can't do this. Now, this person should be invited to leave the country within 72 hours and possibly at bayonet point, if nothing else will motivate him. Well, people can be highly motivated by bayonets. Well, it works. I've seen movies.
I'm trying to get a hold of Arlie, and I think we lost him for good.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's very well informed.
Oh, your fault. Something must have happened on his end. Well, Todd, what do you have for us today? Anything?
Not much. I just enjoyed a nice Thanksgiving dinner and kind of wanted to maybe have an open discussion with a couple of people that know a lot about history about maybe the founding of Thanksgiving and maybe the fact that the mercantilist Abraham Lincoln created it. And I find it often ironic that a lot of people that call Thanksgiving White Man's Slavery Day and Killing Native Americans Day was actually invented by a guy that allegedly, and I strongly embrace the point, allegedly freed the slaves. And I wonder what some of your experiences about college professors that believe that Thanksgiving is a racist holiday was created by Abraham Lincoln.
Well, let's go back. Thanksgiving was not created by the war criminal Abraham Lincoln, who killed more Americans than Roosevelt and Wilson combined. It was practiced in this country first by the Pilgrims, and they practiced it. You don't have to go too deep into history. If you'd watched John Stossel last week, you would have realized that. Thanksgiving was created by the Pilgrims after they practiced communism, and many of them did starve to death. When the Plymouth Company was set up, it was set up as a communist experiment. The land was held in common. Everyone worked according to his ability and received food according to his needs, which wound up being the fact that nobody worked because they'd get as much if they didn't work as if they did, and that's why half of the Pilgrims starved during the first winter in Plymouth. So finally, Bradford issued an order, and this is in his biography. He stated they divided the land so that each family would have its own land, and that they got to keep what they worked for. And after that, they prospered. The survivors prospered. And as for the first Thanksgiving being racist, according to John Stossel, I haven't researched this myself, but there were more Indians than white people there. So Thanksgiving was a free enterprise holiday. Washington, during the Revolution, called for Thanksgiving after several of our victories, Saratoga, I believe, and of course after Yorktown. The war criminal Lincoln did make it national. That's the least of his. That's the least of his crimes, as far as I would say. It is. Well, it is worthwhile to give thanks to God. That's good. We should do that.
That story is the story that I know, and that always happens in communism. The people that are working hard to support the other half are saying, what the heck am I doing this for? Hell, I might as well join them. They don't have to work. Why should I? And
there are two ways to make people produce. One is to give them the results of their labor, and the two is that the point of a whip the point of a gun or a whip or by a whip, and the whipping and gun don't work as well, and that's why millions of people starved under communism wherever you had it. Whether it
I guess we're going to see the whip and the gun work really good here.
I'm
afraid
you're right.
Planning to do.
I'm afraid you're right. And as for these professors, they teach their students they hate white people. They want to wipe white people off the face of the earth. They're looking forward to 2042, when they want the United States to be no longer a majority white country. And the only way to solve that is to have a rational immigration program. As I stated during my campaign, we need to re-implement President Eisenhower's Operation Wetback. I called it Operation Wetback 2, and you can see that on my website, mackoforliberty.com. It worked very well, and no American lost any of his liberties doing it. We don't have an immigration problem. We have an invasion problem, as I believe I stated last week when I was talking also. So,
it's partly due to, Americans. We can all blame each other for the things that go on here. I mean, if we weren't handing out free health care and Social Security and all that other stuff to people that come here illegally, they wouldn't be coming here illegally.
Of course. No, it attracts parasites. It's obvious.
If you subsidize something, you get more of it.
Yes, including parasites. The American people do deserve condemnation for allowing this to happen. We have the greatest country in the world, the most free country in the world, and we let it go. Stop watching the government.
The thing of it is we elect everyone in the government. I mean, we go to the polls and we make a decision on who's going to be running the show. And every time we pick the wrong person, because I don't know why. I mean, I can speak for myself, but I can't speak for these people who are voting blindly just for a D or an R, and not looking up their voting records and not doing their research.
Well, again, it's the media and the education system, especially the public education system. Also, the two-party structure does not give people very much of a choice. After we, quote, liberated, unquote, Iraq, there was a presidential election there. I think there were 100 people on the ballot. All we have is very few, and the media will only talk about the two worst of them, and not about the best of them. Gary Johnson.
Isn't that funny?
And of course, I have no doubt there is voting corruption. We need to return to paper ballots, manually counted at the precinct and watched by everybody, and then shipped under guard to the election headquarters while they're still being watched by anybody who wants to watch.
Well, I think the people that aren't voting and buying guns, I think they're voting with their guns. They've had enough.
Yes, they are.
Yes, sir.
Yes, they are. Give Obama credit. He, in the midst of the Depression, throughout his presidency, he has supported one industry above all others. That is the manufacture and sale of firearms. Every time he speaks, every time he says gun, the sales go up. When he was reelected, it went up. Whenever one of these shootings, which are always suspicious and almost always occur in areas where law-abiding people are not allowed to have guns, because the sales skyrockets. So
right.
He's done a tremendous. He's done tremendously for the gun industry. Of course, the UN wants to get rid of our guns too. That ties in with Agenda 21. It ties in with the other UN programs to enslave us.
Well, that's why I tell people, and even for the new listeners, we have the Democrats and the Republicans, but on both sides, you have globalists and people that mean well. And you can always tell the globalists because they always vote against the Constitution.
Exactly. There was one other, speaking of elections, there was one other charge brought against the Libertarians that I find absolutely ludicrous. Well, this was brought against the Constitution Party members, the Green Party, and the other alternate parties. They actually accused us of spoiling the election, of being spoilers. Now, how can you spoil something which is totally, absolutely, completely rotten to the core? How can you do that? You can't spoil something that's like saying, he spoiled that 30-foot pile of manure.
Yeah, by dumping manure on it.
By dumping more, by cleaning, actually putting water, actually pouring water on it to try to wash it away. To say that libertarians are spoilers is the most ludicrous possible charge. A lot of times, when the enemy puts forth their propaganda points, really the best way to respond to this is just laugh in their faces.
Well, that's all I can do.
Yeah, I know.
When I hear that kind of crap,
because
we all know Romney spoiled any chance he ever had of being elected when he shut out the delegates. I mean, plain and simple.
Obama did not defeat Romney. Romney defeated Romney.
Right. I mean, if you even had half a brain, and you watched the RNC convention, you would know exactly what was going on.
If he had treated Ron Paul halfway decently, and his supporters halfway decent, I think he would have won. Right,
because Paul's supporters weren't going to win. They were just there to make a statement. And the RNC could have let them make their statement. They could have let Ron Paul speak without reading what he had to say. I mean, what was he going to do? Start swearing up on the stage?
He's not that kind of person.
He's been saying the same thing his whole life.
By the way,
why would you need to proofread it?
Yeah. By the way, for listeners, look up Ron Paul's farewell address to Congress. That's going to be an important piece of American history someday if we still have a country.
Well, yeah, it already is now. It's all over the mainstream conservative radio because, and it's been this way since, 2007 is when I first became interested in Ron Paul. What they were showing. They playing the radio.
Not me.
Todd, you playing the radio?
I walked into a different room and the football game was on.
Oh, okay. Well, walk out.
We got that on our show now.
Just wanted to capture your...
But since 2007, this is what would happen, and some of the listeners may not know this, but I watched it happen. The media would have Ron Paul on. They'd have him talk about, what was coming, the housing bubble and all the other stuff. And then as soon as the primaries came, they didn't pay attention to him at all. They didn't have him on. They didn't talk about him. They ignored him. Then when the election came, they totally ignored him. Then as soon as President Obama was elected, everybody had Ron Paul on their show. But it was already too late. It was over. The housing bubble burst. We You had the bailouts and everything. And then, before the primaries this year, they had Ron Paul on all the time. As soon as the primaries came around, nobody had him on. Nobody wanted to talk to him. Nobody wanted to cover him. And then people say, well, Ron Paul has no chance. Well, he couldn't win. Well, if he was a winner, where's his numbers? Well, that's exactly why, because the media shut him out. And if anybody didn't see that, you're a fool.
Well, as a libertarian candidate for office, I can speak personally to that. The same technique was used against us, which in a way is encouraging because it shows they're afraid of us.
Well, I had a friend that actually ran for Senate against Mandel. And don't get me wrong, I met Mandel a few times.
That was Scott Rupert.
No,
right?
It was actually Rusty Bliss.
Oh, yes, he was in the Republican primary. Another good man, yeah. They tend to be wiped out early in the Republican Party.
Well, he's a very good man, very staunch conservative, and they shut him out. Mandel never even showed up to the debate because he didn't have to. He already had it in the bag.
Well, the same with David Joyce, the Republican congressman-elect in the 14th District, who's more conservative than La Tourette. Yeah.
Right. Well, then again, from what I gather, the Democrat Party wanted who was it that was running for Democrat?
Sherrod Brown.
Black gentleman.
Dale
Congress.
Blanchard. Yeah. Dale
Yeah.
Blanchard.
They wanted him to bow out so that they could run somebody against La Tourette's successor, Joyce, and he wouldn't bow out, so they couldn't.
No. I got to meet Dale many times during the course of the campaign. Of course, he's a Keynesian socialist economically, but the point is he is pro-life. I think I told him, Dale, that's why they hate you. You don't want to kill unborn babies.
Well, I happened to be standing right next to him at an event, and he was calling people out saying, hey, I'm going to put money in your pocket, in your pocket, in your pocket.
Oh, yeah, well, I said he's a Keynesian socialist.
Yeah.
Right.
And I looked, somebody said, hey, how about some money now? He said, well, they haven't given me the money to the printing press yet.
Uh-huh.
Or the key to the printing press, I'm sorry.
Was that at, by the way, was that at the Lake County Tea Party to which I was uninvited or not invited?
No, but you know what? I want to say something about that Tea Party. Rusty Bliss and I went there. Actually, a bunch of us Republicans went there because they were having a straw poll. And I believe there were 4 candidates at the time. And on the little sheet of paper where you had to vote, they had every candidate on there except for Ron Paul. And Rusty and I threw a fit. And the Tea Party actually had to get up on the stage and apologize and say that there was one more person running for president. I was very disappointed.
Well, I'm honored because Chuck Laughlin of the Lake County Tea Party used the same dirty, rotten, underhanded technique against me that was used against Ron Paul. So I'm honored to be in the company of Ron Paul. Anytime, actually. Yes. But I wouldn't be honored to have anything to do with the Lake County Tea Party or with the Portage County one either. There are some good ones out there. The Andover Tea Party, which a lady named Peggy Slingloff and her husband are in charge of. One of the good ones, but many of them have been taken over by the enemy.
You know what gets me? You know what gets me? The people are so dumb that they don't even listen to you when you say, look, I was there. Ron Paul people started the Tea Party. I was part of it. And they said, oh, no, that was started in 2009. Are you smoking crack? I mean, these people have no idea. They have no idea. And you know what? It really pisses me off. If people in my own party don't pay attention to things that are going on, and it really gets under my skin.
I think they're smoking Beck.
Yeah, I think.
Well, yeah, that too.
Well, again, Bob, as I said,
one of those guys.
Bob, as I said a few minutes ago, if you finally have your fill of the Republican Party, you do have another home.
No, see, I like to think that I have a nice big set, and I have a big mouth to go with them.
Okay.
And I'm going to change this party. It's time to start right now. We have to start acting like conservatives, and we've got to call out the people who are going along with the globalist agenda.
I guess here's something for people to know about libertarians. When you get a Ron Paul or a patriotic individual in office, libertarians will tend to vote for that Republican. So it's not like the Libertarian Party is at dire ends with patriotic Republicans. I don't.
Right,
I don't
and that's what I'm trying to tell people, and they don't get it.
And here's the thing: I don't see where a libertarian wouldn't stand down if the Republican candidate wasn't just as good. When I was in the Libertarian Party, I still voted for Ron Paul. I still voted for Republicans that were good. I mean, I didn't vote the straight Libertarian ticket. Heck, I quitted because they put on Bob Barr, and he's a neocon. So,
right.
I mean, the Libertarian person isn't just this stoic figure that just votes Libertarian. It's a person that believes in freedom. And the more you verge away from that, the more you're going to turn your way from these voters. And that's why the Republicans lost last time. They had the most socialist friggin' nation-building candidate that you can possibly have. I mean, I couldn't think of a guy that was running that was worse.
And I think that's why I stayed, because I want to educate my fellow Republicans.
Yeah, and the thing was, it wasn't that 1% that Gary Johnson took that could have swayed the election. It was the incompetency of Mitt Romney and the candidacy that he ran that took away probably 5% of people that would have voted for him. Right. I mean, establishment Republicans are establishment Republicans, and if Ron Paul had that R behind their name, they wouldn't have lost any of those guys. But they would have gained 5 to 10%.
Speaking of Ron Paul, the Libertarian Party of Texas never ran any candidate against him when he was in Congress.
Hang on, guys. I think we got Arlie back. Arlie.
Hey.
Hey, welcome back, brother.
What's going on with you all? What have I missed?
Oh, you missed a hell of a lot, man. You got to catch up. Go ahead, guys.
Who's that?
This is my co-host. He's back.
Hi, welcome back, Harley.
Yes.
Thank you.
So go ahead, continue, guys, what you were saying.
All right, as I was saying, Ron Paul never had a Libertarian opponent when he ran for Congress in Texas, whereas the Libertarian Party generally put up candidates in every other district in Texas.
And do you know those Tea Party people in Ron Paul's district were so dumb? 5 of them ran against him.
Yeah, that's proof, though. That's proof. Whoever would do that is the enemy. Because you have a person basically with the perfect voting record, and it's just taking away money from him, taking away energy.
Here's my whole thing. You're the Tea Party. You're for no taxes. You're for smaller government. Ron Paul represents all of that, but you're going to have 5 of you run against him? Are you serious? I mean, what the hell are they smoking down there?
Their definition of I guess his definition of conservative and their definition of conservative is different. They don't see eye to eye. I don't know what it is. They talk about being conservative, but when it comes time to promoting someone who is conservative, they couldn't see it if it hit them in the face.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. And I don't want to put down the Tea Party because, we started the Tea Party. But the more people you get in there who sit in front of that television all day, the more corrupt it becomes.
I don't want to put down the remaining good Tea Party groups like the one in Andover, but I really have to do it with Portage County and Lake County. And with these people in Texas who ran against Ron Paul. That's obviously shows they're the enemy. Yeah.
Seems to me the thing.
Go ahead, Arlie.
It seems the things that these so-called Tea Parties are obsessed with, they're obsessed with things like, I don't know what it is. They're Islamophobic. They think that Islam is going to take over America with Sharia law. Some of the Tea Party people I've met think that we should be up Israel's butt. I mean, I'm thinking, aren't there more important things that you would agree with Ron Paul on, like, I don't know, smaller government, less government, limited government, decentralized power, smaller, less taxes, smaller and lower tax rates, free market economic policies. I mean, are you not interested in those sorts of things? Or, you believe in civil liberties because, as Ron Paul puts it, and as I believe it to be, civil liberties and economic rights are not separate. They are one and the same. You cannot have one without the other.
Exactly right. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I kind of got the similar gist that Dave did from his Tea Party groups when I was a member of Lorain County Tea Party. These guys, every time I brought up the name Ron Paul, they would call me a Paul-Bot or a Paul-Tart. And they thought I should get behind Herman Cain.
Oh,
and then
boy.
when Herman Cain dropped out, they thought I should get behind Newt Gingrich.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Gingrich got out, they decided I should support this Rick Santorum who's trying to sell a book. And then when Santorum was out, they said support Romney or else you're a Democrat.
Boy, they're real winners.
And all they did was humiliate everybody in the group that was a Ron Paul supporter, and I think that there was a possibility that there was COINTEL involved. Because I've never seen a more compromised group than the individuals in Lorain County Tea Party.
Well, yeah, because you know what happens, the chairman in that county or whoever's in charge comes into the Tea Party. They visit all the groups. They shake hands with the guys. They get buddy chummy with them. And those guys all of a sudden think they're special. And so they're going to do anything the party wants them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Including having a fundraiser at the Avon Lake Crushers Stadium, in which they had a mock election where people that donated money, their candidate could win first place and be announced on the loudspeaker. Needless to say, Ron Paul's coffers was a lot fuller than everybody else's by a wide margin. And it just so happened that they forgot to announce who was the winner of this mock election.
Gee, what a surprise.
So they forgot this after I donated $15 of my own money into this thing. And I think my donation alone was probably equal to what Michelle Bachmann got. So it's just amazing. There was got to be over $200 in this thing, and there was a lot of people donating a lot of money for Ron Paul and very little money for the other candidates, and they ceased to recognize the fact that there was a lot of money in those buckets, which all went into their coffers, by the way. I feel like I threw away $15 for nothing.
You did.
You know, I wonder if I wonder if they even know that Ron Paul didn't take a congressional junket. And at this point, I wouldn't blame him if he did.
I doubt they care.
Jack.
Arlie made a very important point a few minutes ago that I wanted to get back to. He mentioned the fact that many of the Tea Parties have been infiltrated by what you really have to term as warmongers. Now, certainly we don't need Sharia law in this country. We need to restore the Constitution. We also don't need Talmudic law. We also don't need the Napoleonic Code. We also don't need any foreign system of law. We need to restore the Constitution and the British common law on which it was based, because they are the most pro-libertarian systems in the history of the world. Now, these warmongers who are trying to build up a bloodlust against Muslims are being used to start World War III, which would be the final death blow to what remains of our liberty and what remains of the Constitution. And if it was to be instituted, it would probably be so terrible that this would be yet another excuse to set up a one-world government.
Well, Sharia law cannot exist in a constitutional republic.
You're correct. Neither can Talmudic law, Napoleonic law, National Socialist law, Soviet-style law, or anything else. Because
and the true irony is that these people who are so afraid of Sharia law taking over the country are actually subverting the Constitution.
Exactly.
So they're actually making it. They're actually making it possible for the very law they want to avoid getting in place.
Exactly.
Right.
You're exactly correct.
That's why it makes absolutely no sense.
It's designed to promote bloodlust for World War III.
The one thing I would say that a foreign policy is I have when it comes to non-interventionism, the one thing I think we should be worried, if we're going to be concerned about any area of the world, we should be concerned about the Western Hemisphere. And if we're going to have a foreign policy that at least looks at anybody else, it's kind of strange because they talk about securing our country, but yet they don't have. If the best foreign policy was the Monroe Doctrine, under James Monroe, which was, James Monroe was one of those Jeffersonian constitutional types. He would be in line with what we're talking about. They were non-interventionist. But the Monroe Doctrine basically said that the Western powers had to keep out of the affairs. Basically, they had to stay out of the Western Hemisphere, which, because we're there, they couldn't cause trouble in our hemisphere. But because, I
so
think
it's
we
okay
have,
to go to the other hemisphere.
Huh?
But he was okay to go to the other hemisphere.
No, as a matter of fact, we didn't have any wide-reaching involvement in any place in the world during his administration. He just didn't want anybody, he didn't want anybody like Europe. Of course, Europe was the big issue at the time. He didn't want European powers. He did not want European powers putting their warships in the seas over here. He didn't want any of that kind of. And, in a lot of ways, I think we do have something to say. While I don't believe we should be intervening in places abroad in terms of east of here, I do believe that we should have something to say about what's going on in our hemisphere. Because a lot of those places are close.
Yeah, especially Canada and Mexico. Yeah, you're right. And most of Central America and the Caribbean. Yeah, because that is the back door. And it's interesting to note that the United States government violated the Monroe Doctrine once it got involved in the Spanish-American War, and then to a huge extent in World War I and again in World War II. The agreement was we'd stay out of Europe and they'd stay out of the Western Hemisphere.
Right. The Monroe Doctrine is the one I would follow.
I agree with you. I have no argument with that. No.
Because I believe in the policies of what they used to call themselves Jefferson's Democratic Republican Party. They believed in Republican ideas. They didn't believe in a central bank. They didn't believe in, of course, they didn't believe in a standing army. What a definition of a standing army is, in the sense that if they mean that we shouldn't have an army that's on duty and ready, I don't know if I'd agree with that. But I do. I don't believe you should have troops on the streets. You shouldn't have them in homes. You shouldn't force them on anybody. But we should have an ample military that would protect our borders here. One of my friends suggested that since Mexico is such a problem, and since we have the drug cartels and all the things that are going on in the south of the border, that is a national security issue, and that if it were up to him, we wouldn't be appeasing the Mexican government. he suggests that instead of using drones in Yemen and Pakistan, we should be using drones we should be making drone strikes on the drug cartels.
Well,
Those are our
active
drug
war.
cartels.
That is an active war. The way to solve the problem of the drug cartels is to re-legalize drugs in the United States. It would take the profit out of it, both for the Mexican drug cartels, for the CIA, for our local gangsters, just like the profit was taken out of it when Prohibition was repealed. The Constitution gives no authority to the FedGov to pass drug laws. At least when the meddlers and busybodies wanted to stop Americans from drinking alcohol, they knew they had to have a constitutional amendment. Now, I don't agree with this, and I would certainly not support it, but where's the constitutional amendment that says the FedGov can meddle in what substances American adults take, namely drugs?
I agree.
It's not there. Yeah. And it was, while you were away from the program, we were discussing the UN and Agenda 21, and there's some UN bureaucrat actually telling Obama that he should not allow Colorado and Washington State to repeal their drug laws, to repeal their marijuana laws. It's totally outrageous. Totally outrageous.
Right, I heard about that. You know, there's one way to stop the drug laws that a lot of people are doing now, jury nullification.
Yes.
If no one is harmed in the crime, the jury should let them go.
Well, jury nullification is why we have freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Jury nullification is why the fugitive slave laws were eventually nullified. The Supreme Court, the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, stated that every jury has the right to decide the law as well as the case. This was commonly taught to jurors until about 125 years ago, and we need to have it again. In my campaign literature, I stated that all federal judges should be required to tell jurors they have the right to nullify bad laws. And, of course, the state legislature could do the same on the state level. So jury nullification is a very important issue. There's a fine organization called FIJA, Fully Informed Jury Association, which promotes the idea of jury nullification. Just don't mention it to the judge if you get called to a jury.
I'll never get picked for jury duty.
That's what I thought, too, but in 2006 I was actually picked. It wasn't something, though, where I could practice. None of the cases were ones where I could practice jury nullification because the guy was guilty of robbery. So.
You ever do those fun little things where, let's say you're going 35 and the person in front of you can't seem to do 35, they're doing under, and then as soon as you get to a 25-mile-an-hour zone, you know they're going to be speeding because they're idiots?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever played that game with yourself?
No, but when I was in England on vacation, yeah.
Here's where I'm going with that. I always had this theory that only people that were not well informed got picked for jury duty, and that the people that were informed didn't get picked for jury duty.
Well, I thought so too until I was actually picked, but it's only once in 40-some years. So your theory has a lot. Your theory has a lot going for it. I was going to mention the speeding laws. I was on vacation in England in 2005, and I was discussing their roundabouts, the road situation there, and the very poor directions they have, at least I thought. And I was with a couple in one of the museums in Shakespeare's birthplace town, Stratford-on-Avon, and I was criticizing the British road system, and they got back at me. They said they had lived in the United States for a number of years, and they asked me, why are your speed limits so low? They're 20 miles lower than what they should be. You have excellent roads, you're wide roads and well built, and you could travel a lot faster. And I knew they had me. I knew they had me, so I admitted it. Well, it's for revenue purposes, of course.
Right.
I admitted it. So why was I couldn't. They were nice people. I didn't want to lie to them. Besides, they had me anyway. They were there. They had been here, and so they knew. And I said it's revenue.
Well, look at that. Look at the little 1 mile stretch there on 271 for Willoughby Hills. I got from good sources. That's all revenue. All that money goes to the police department. And if you go into that court, I got stopped there one time on my way home from college, and I went into the mayor's court. It's a mayor's court, and there must have been 100 people in there, wall to wall, on that day paying tickets, paying their stupid tax.
When I ran for state representative, I was thinking especially of Lindale, but I said no municipality should get more than 10% of its revenue from traffic tickets. That would solve that.
Right, that's a good idea.
Problem. Yeah, that would solve that problem. Somebody said Lindale would go out of business, and I said, well, so what?
Did you hear about that one stretch of...
Go ahead.
Did you hear about that one stretch of interstate, I think it is in Texas? They raised the speed limit to 85.
Yes. Good idea. If you ever drive in Texas, there's mile upon mile of totally straight road. You can see 10 miles ahead of you, so it's silly to go slower.
Well, gentlemen, we got about 5 minutes left, so any final remarks?
If you don't mind, I'll mention my website again, www.mackoforliberty.com, and my email address, dmacko@roadrunner.com, and invite everyone in the vicinity to attend the next meeting of the Libertarian Party of Cuyahoga County at Denny's Restaurant, Wednesday, December 5th at 7 o'clock. That's at on West 150th, just south of the I-71 exit, 4331
right.
West 150th.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on, Dave.
Thank you. Look forward to it again sometime.
Oh, yeah, we'll do it. Arlie, go ahead.
Well, it's good to have you on here again, and I hope you'll be on the next show. We really enjoy the variety of conversation.
Thank you.
I'm glad that there are good people out there like yourself that are plugging away and running for office. And maybe when I get in the position to run, I will run. I don't know.
Well,
there's a lot of things. Go ahead.
I have a lot of campaign literature from when I ran for state representative and some for when I ran for Congress. I can send you some. All you need to do is put your picture on over mine and the biographical information for yourself, and you're all set.
Nice. Well, thank you. That's very
You're
nice
welcome.
of you.
You're welcome.
The other, it's really interesting because I live in this town here, Bardstown, Kentucky, and they have this thing. They call it, I think I've mentioned it. You want to talk about excessive things, how they intrude in what people do with their private property, if there's such a thing anymore. They have this thing called a historical review board or something like that, because we have a historic district, and they make recommendations to the city council. Well, I saw a front page article in our local paper, The Standard, talking about how this couple made a change in the column design that they had on the front of their house. They made a change in the columns that they put 2 new columns where they had some old ones or something. And they had to sit there at city council while city council made a decision on whether they could make that change or not. Per the recommendations of the historical review board. for the city. It is beyond me how they even allow crap like that. I don't understand. Why does anybody have to, sit there and be told that whether they can do or not do something with their private property?
Because we let them.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. When we need to tell those, we need to elect people in the mayor and city hall, city council that will put their foot down and say we're not even going to listen to this historical review board.
Exactly.
Or you need to get people to attend the city council meetings.
Yes.
Historical accuracy and history do not trump private property rights.
You are correct. And our history is based on the right of private property.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's part of the Agenda 21.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, we got about 30 seconds, gentlemen.
I understand their desire to want to have that one area of town look in line with its historical roots, but I think that's going a little too far.
Well, the best way to preserve our history is to restore the Constitution.
Amen.
That's right.
Todd, you want to say something really quick? We're running out of time.
All right. Yeah. Well, basically, we sign on to all of the things that we run against us. For example, if we have to go against a speeding ticket, the cause of action that they have is the fact that we are against the public interest. That's with the same thing they use for the drug laws. We have to realize what jurisdiction we're from, what cause of action they have, and have a good understanding of the law. Then we can fight at the court level. And the court level is the easiest.